In this episode, we're looking at the 2025 BMW M5, and you already know the headlines: 717 horsepower that it delivers through a hybrid drivetrain. But that's not the whole story. I've looked into this a fair bit, and what nobody's talking about are 5 game-changing technologies that BMW has exploited to make this a proper super sedan. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Max Racer, lover of driving fast, fun things. And on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. And as soon as I started looking into this M5, I said to myself, this thing is incredibly complex and we need to look at it in a lot of detail. And before we get into what this is like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. As an all-new M5, there is a lot going on here to differentiate it from the previous generation M5 as well as the current 5 Series. For starters, it's about 3 inches wider at the front and about 2 inches wider at the rear, but there's a new front fascia, lots of aero, lots of cooling, and that's to support all of the power that the hybrid drivetrain makes. We still have the 4.4-liter V8 with 2 twin-scroll turbos that makes 577 horsepower from 5,600 to 6,500 RPM and 553 pounds of torque from 1,800 to 5,400 RPM. Then there's a 5th generation BMW M permanently excited electric motor in the transmission with pre-gearing, more on that later, that makes 194 horsepower and 207 pounds of torque, but it also gets boosted up to 332 pounds of torque under pre-gearing. Combined, this power unit makes 717 horsepower from 5,600 to 6,500 RPM and 738 pounds of torque. The transmission's an 8-speed automatic. The all-wheel drive system is fully variable, tuned by BMW M for the occasion, and yes, indeed, there is a rear-wheel drive mode. There is also a fully variable, electronically controlled limited-slip diff at the back. BMW calls it Active M differential. The chassis is stiffened throughout. That includes the main chassis as well as the subframes, as well as suspension components. Steering is electrically assisted, and it is variable ratio, variable assist, and 4-wheel steer. Yes, indeed, the rear wheels do articulate up to 1.5 degrees. The suspension is significantly different relative to a standard 5 Series, and one of the things they have done is updated the geometry with a lower roll center. The suspension uses double wishbones at the front, a 5-link setup at the rear. Yes, there are adaptive dampers, of course. Brakes are 6-piston calipers at the front, single piston at the rear. Brakes are indeed massive. Standard brakes are conventional cast iron, but this one has the optional carbon ceramics, which are about 55 pounds lighter than the cast iron brakes. Wheels are 20s at the front, 21s at the rear. Tires are Michelin Pilot Sports, as you'd expect in a car like this. There is a lovely Bowers & Wilkins sound system in there. Lots of tech with connectivity, including over-the-air updates, and curb weight of this 2025 BMW M5 is 5,390 pounds.
Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this, and if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode.
I can just imagine what happened at the board meeting when they were considering this new M5, and I bet it was one of those speed-mad Germans that looked at the sketch of this car and said, everything complex about quantum physics, put it in that car. This M5 is so technologically advanced, it makes the latest iPhone with its AI tech look like a potato. Behind the wheel, the setup here is absolutely perfect. I've got a great relationship to the steering wheel and to the pedals, and the reason is this seat is fantastic. It is highly adjustable, very, very supportive, very comfortable as well. Other than the little bit of flat bottom bit going on with the steering wheel, I kind of dig this setup. It is a modern BMW M wheel, so the rim thickness is on the maybe exaggerated side, but everything here is very functional. We do have shift paddles and then the M1 and M2 configurable drive mode switches, and on top of that, this left switch has a boost mode function. So when you pull it, you get all of the horses and all of the torques working together for a very short burst. It's kind of cool. Ergonomically, this is all very modern BMW with a bit of an M spin on it. So what we do have are a lot of touch-based controls. There's still the iDrive controller, which does have an M logo embedded in it. This is very cool. It's a very nice touch. The start-stop switch is red, and here we have buttons for a bunch of different systems that are specific to the M5. So for fun, let's hit the M Hybrid. There are 5 different hybrid powertrain modes here. Then we can go into My Modes, which is Road, Sport, and Track. And then you can configure your M1 and M2 buttons any way you like. I've got them set up specifically for me. M1 I set up as a little bit more aggressive than the default mode, and M2 is full out bonkers, rear wheel drive, no stability, no traction control, in case I wanted to drift this thing. Between the drivetrain and all of the systems that are adjustable, this thing has more identity crises than a millennial trying to make a decision between kombucha and craft beer. With BMW's infotainment system, when you get into the individual apps, as they call them, this can be a little complex, but what I am seeing are some iterations and improvements in the UX, and I think over time we're going to see some improvements in this system to make it a little bit more intuitive for us humans. In terms of spaciousness, here in the front row, yourself, your passenger, very comfortable, and again, these seats are just fantastic. Love their support and love their comfort. Absolutely no complaints there. In the second row, it's actually remarkably spacious, and in fact, we had a couple of passengers in the back seat the other day, and it worked out just great. There's a decent amount of space in that second row for short distances. We went to a thing in downtown Toronto and then left the venue with 4 people on board. No problem at all. I will say there's a ton of room in that trunk as well. In terms of visibility, it's just fine. Lots of glass all around, easy to see out of this thing. And there are some large outboard mirrors, and the auto-dimming rear view mirror here just works fine. And of course, these are highly adjustable, so you can find your settings so that there are no blind spots, because on this channel, we know blind spots are a myth. In the name of science, how hard does this new M5 launch? Let's find out. Whoa! Come on. That is just astonishing. But what's going on there is just incredible. There's so much happening. But what is really cool is I can feel through this chassis what's going on with each of the tires and how they're scrambling and being managed for traction. That is just mind-boggling. Now, let's look at how hard this car launches from the outside, shall we? There's a lot to this powertrain, obviously, in terms of being a hybrid and the sophistication of the all-wheel drive system, the fact that the hybrid electric motor is in the transmission. Then we've got the electronically controlled limited slip diff in the back. And what is impressive about this car is all of these complex systems are integrated and they all work very well together. To be fair, I did not measure how quickly this launches from 0 to 60. The official number is something like 3.5 seconds. I don't buy it at all. I think this is about 3 seconds flat, maybe 3.1. This is incredibly quick in a straight line, but that's not the entire story. What I have found is that this thing keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. For example, it feels to me like this car pulls just as hard in 5th gear as it does in 3rd gear. Yes, that was in the name of science, professional driver closed course and all of that. But yes, this just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. It's no surprise that it does that because we have the electric motor and the gasoline motor working together, and they work perfectly in harmony. It is mind bending how quick this car is in a straight line. I had to recalibrate my brain just a little bit to understand how quick this is in a straight line. But the way the entire drive line works, it doesn't display any bad habits. That also means pretty much anybody can get behind the wheel, do a launch control start in this thing, and hit 0 to 60 in a little over 3 seconds, if not 3 seconds flat. Because of all the different drive mode configurations that we can tell this M5 we want, this will behave in kind of any manner you like. The other day, for example, when we were driving around with a full complement of passengers, you can drive this thing in almost a limousine-like mode where it's quiet, comfortable. Of course, you can put it in all electric, and there's no hint that this thing makes 717 horsepower. And then, of course, you can go full on bonkers, like I do have my M2 mode set up. It is fairly aggressive, but it is rear-wheel drive, two-wheel drive mode, so that I can drive with this on the throttle. And of course, drivers with lots of experience definitely will appreciate that. When you want to launch this thing, however, you definitely want to take advantage of the fact that this thing has all-wheel drive. But not only that, the all-wheel drive system is tuned by M, as is that electronically controlled limited slip diff. The way they put down power is incredible. I do have my M2 activated right now, which is manual shift only, but you can set this to a full automatic mode, and everything from full-on bonkers to nice and slow and smooth shifts. Oh, love the way this boost switch works. It's kind of like giving the middle finger to every Tesla driver that thinks they're saving the planet. I think overall, for straight line performance and how this puts down power, there are really two stories here. It is this drivetrain and how the electric motor and the gasoline motor work together. This just seems to pull and pull and pull. It is very, very quick from a stop or when you're on the move. I am just blown away by that. But on top of that, it's how the rest of the drivetrain gets all of that power and torque to the ground. This is at a new level of performance for me. So I've switched this over to the road drive mode and gotten out of my M1 and M2 settings. And this is driving like a hybrid. Right now, it's driving on electric. And because that electric motor is in the gearbox, the transmission is actually shifting up and down the gearbox when we are purely driving on electricity. It's wild.
The first game changer has to do with the electric motor, and everybody knows all about it, but here's what they're missing. BMW's engineers developed a pre-gearing stage that multiplies the motor's torque from 207 to 332 pounds before it even hits the transmission. This isn't just adding electric power, it's completely reimagining how torque from an electric motor is delivered in a high-performance application. The second game changer looks simple at first, 5 hybrid drive modes, but here's what makes this revolutionary. Unlike other performance hybrids that simply dump electric power for maximum acceleration, the M5 system is continuously optimizing power delivery based on your driving style. Plus, each mode has its own protocol for power delivery, whether you're driving in pure electric, hybrid, or dynamic plus modes. Now, this might be the most significant change to M-car driving dynamics since the introduction of MXDrive. That new boost paddle on the steering wheel isn't just a simple power button, it switches every system to maximum attack, transforming the M5 from a sedate sedan into an absolute weapon. Drivers, use this one with great care. Number 4 shows how far M has pushed the boundaries. The M5's new power management system doesn't just balance electric and V8 power, it predictably adapts based on multiple factors. The car is constantly calculating the optimal power split between the V8 and electric motors, factoring in everything from battery temperature to cornering Gs. Think of it like an F1 Cruise system for the street. For me, this fifth game changer is truly what sets the M5 apart, and almost nobody is talking about it. BMW completely redesigned how the chassis handles all of the newfound power and torque. The revised geometry, four-wheel steering, and adaptive dampers aren't just standard M tech, they've been fundamentally re-engineered to work with this new power unit. The result is something that completely changes the handling game, and we'll get into that in just a moment.
I've switched over to my M1 mode, which is not full bonkers insane, but still four-wheel drive with M dynamic mode activated. We allow the dampers to work, especially since we're going on some rougher roads here. So the dampers are set to comfort and everything else is slightly more aggressive, including the brake pedal, which we are going to talk about in a little bit. It is that time in the episode to find some corners, I think. Yes, here we are. Wow, this is just wild. It definitely drives much smaller than its size suggests, and this is a case of where it's managing the curb weight of this new M5 exceptionally well. It doesn't mask it. It responds exactly the way I want. Yeah, as we get into these corners, I'm not going to say masking is the right word. I think it manages the weight of this car exceptionally well. The suspension does an incredible job, and wow, talk about putting power down. These brakes, wow, love these carbon ceramics. And on top of that, what I'm finding, and this never happens with cars that weigh over maybe 3,500 pounds, but I've got incredible chassis feel here. I haven't experienced anything quite like this. I can tell exactly what's going on at each of the 4 contact patches. I can feel if I'm getting a little bit of understeer. I can feel if I'm getting a little bit of oversteer. This is something else. They're doing something very special with this car, and if they weren't engineers, I would definitely call them wizards. And here, just cruising along, yes, we are driving along on the electric motor only, but it is very quiet, and on top of that, it's comfortable. It is a little bit on the firmer side of things. The ride comfort, definitely on the firmer side, and you'd expect that from an M5, but it's not harsh in any way. The ride is very, very comfortable, and even on our lousy roads, I think if I set the dampers to full stiff, the ride might be a little harsh, and there's no reason to do that when we're on roads like this. And very comfortable going over some road imperfections, but even in the corners, body and wheel control is exceptional. And again, body control has to be amazing because this thing does weigh 5,400 pounds, and these dampers are next level to be able to control that much mass. And again, on top of that, chassis feedback is top notch. And as far as braking goes, well, these are the carbon ceramics with massive rotors, 6-piston calipers, and whoa, they work. The brakes are by wire, of course, and that allows BMW to change the level of assist. No, it does not change feel. If anybody says that it changes feel, well, it's only the perception because you're not getting any more feel or feedback through that pedal. What it does do is change the amount of effort. So I like to set mine on the sport brake setting, which requires a little bit more effort. And at speed, that additional pedal effort gives me a little bit more control over the attitude of the M5 when I'm braking. And that's definitely the kind of control that you need when you're hustling a car that is this quick and this capable. But the brakes give me almost millimeter level of precision, but certainly I can adjust the attitude of this M5, especially on corner entry with that brake pedal, and it's definitely better on that sport brake mode. Steering is an M-tuned variable assist, variable ratio setup. So you've got very quick steering when you're parking, very easy. And as speeds increase, that ratio kind of mellows out. And overall, very happy with this. What I do find is there's not a lot of feel that comes through the steering wheel. It's through the chassis. And because this chassis feel is definitely on the high side, I can feel exactly what's going on at those front contact patches when I'm turning the steering wheel. It's a very odd thing because given the high fidelity chassis feedback, I would have expected a little bit more through the steering wheel, but alas, we're not getting that chassis feel through the roof. I'm astonished how clear chassis feedback is. And I wasn't expecting that given the curb weight of this M5. Still very happy with the steering, strong on center no matter which mode you're in, and it is very direct and clear and translates your inputs into precise movements. I have to give some praise to these Michelin Pilot Sports on this M5 because they work in every kind of condition. I've driven this in a little bit of rain, lots of grip, in the wet and in the dry. They just have fantastic fantastic grip, very high levels of grip, and allow this BMW M5 to do what it does. And here on a nice, smooth country road, this thing is as comfortable as a new 7 Series. It is very, very comfortable. And then, of course, you can flick your M2 switch twice and it turns into an incredible high-performance super sedan. How do you spec yours? Well, since it's a BMW M car, there are some performance options considerations, which we will get into in just a moment. You are looking at Daytona Violet metallic paint, which I don't believe you can get in the US, with a Silverstone and black merino leather interior. Among other things, this car is equipped with the very important carbon ceramic brakes and the carbon exterior package. In the US, base price is $119,500. As tested, this is $133,100 in the US. And again, you can't get Daytona Violet metallic in the US as far as I know. In Canada, the base price is $138,500, and as tested, this is $158,900, and these prices are before freight and local taxes. As far as I'm concerned, there are 3 considerations when it comes to speccing your M5. Number 1, the brakes. The carbon ceramic brakes, I think, suit this car. I have not tried the conventional brakes, but I think given the performance capabilities of this M5, these are the brakes that you need. Number 2, that's the M Drivers package, and it's important if you take your M5 to the racetrack or drive somewhere where you don't have speed limits, because it uncorks the speed limiter from 150 miles an hour to 190 miles an hour. And number 3, that's your color choice. And as far as I'm concerned, given that this M5 has a bit of an attitude, I think it needs to portray itself with a bit of a sinister look, and that means it needs to be black on the outside and black on the inside as far as I'm concerned. My verdict, well, there's no question that the performance of this all-new M5 is astonishing. And I think what we're seeing here is BMW M rethinking what a modern performance super sedan could be. All of the tech and engineering that's gone into this M5 imbues it with an incredible character. It drives much smaller than it seems, and certainly much lighter than it seems. If this M5 had a personality, I would describe it as complicated, expensive, and trying really hard to look effortless, and I think it's succeeding. The reality is this is a hybrid because it needs to be in order to meet emissions regulations in certain parts of the world, and there's just no getting around it. But what BMW has done with this M5 is created a blueprint for the modern super sedan, and it's one I can get behind because this hybrid system isn't just here for efficiency. I think that's a secondary consideration. If you've ordered one of these M5s, well, I say congratulations to you, because you've got a super sedan that can be somewhat efficient and outrun basically every supercar. I guess we should say welcome to 2025 when anything's possible. And as for me, this thing is just astonishing. It has incredible straight line performance. It has the handling to match and the driving dynamics to satisfy drivers like us. But I want to know what you think. What do you think of this new BMW M5 and the way the M engineers have applied all of this tech to make this a super sedan? Drop me your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this all-new 2025 BMW M5. Hope you liked this episode, and if you did, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like this, and as always, sharing is caring, so please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers, from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even BMW M5s. And since you've stuck around this long, well, I'd like you to have a look at our last BMW M5 episode, and that was about the CS, which was incredible. It was an incredible driving experience and a very memorable car. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I think you'll enjoy that one too. See you again next time.